Democratic leaders are worried about members of Congress being targeted by a foreign interference campaign and are asking the FBI for an urgent briefing. The letter to the FBI director reads in part, "We are greatly concerned, in particular, that Congress appears to be the target of a concerted foreign interference campaign which seeks to launder and amplify disinformation in order to influence congressional activity, public debate, and the presidential election in November."
Let's bring in right now one of the members of Congress who wrote that letter, Chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff of California. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us. Mike Barnicle is here and has the first question for you. Mike.
Mr. Chairman, according to the news reports, part of that letter implies that Russians might be funneling information to Senator Ron Johnson and his committee in the United States Senate undergoing an investigation right now of Joe Biden and his family. Is that accurate? And what's your response if it is accurate?
I can't go into the underlying information, as you can imagine, but it was exactly 4 years ago that Senator Feinstein and I issued a public letter warning that the Russians were then beginning to interfere in the 2016 election. And now, we have the same concern that once again, a foreign power or foreign powers may be seeking, and they may be using some of the same modalities, and they may be using new techniques, such as laundering information through Congress with the intent of interfering and affecting our election. We think all the members of Congress should be made aware of it so that none are unwitting of what the foreign nations may be doing to try to influence our election, and we can take steps. We know the president isn't going to. We know the president is going to merely invite any interference that may help him. The statement that you just read from Joe Biden, that's what a president says. To try to deter and discourage foreign intervention. We're not going to get that from the existing president. And the best thing I think we can do in Congress is initially arm the members of Congress with information so they're not manipulated or used to propagate Russian or other disinformation. But also, I think the country needs to be informed.
All right, Mr. Chairman, David Sanger, one of the authors of the Times report today, indicated that the Times believes that within this letter is a reference to Senator Ron Johnson and his committee having been funneled information from a foreign source. Would that surprise you if a member of the Republican Party in the United States Senate were getting information from foreign sources with regard to tampering with our election?
Well, I can only say, and this was an issue that we raised during the course of the impeachment, that we presented evidence and expert testimony. You recall Dr. Fiona Hill talking about how Republican members of Congress were propagating a Russian-originated fiction, in that case about Ukraine interfering in the 2016 election. And the import of that testimony and other evidence was that the president and his acolytes in Congress were stoking this CrowdStrike conspiracy theory that was of Russian origin. And, if there are issues like that, if there is intelligence suggesting that the Russians or any other power are similarly trying to influence U.S. politics, and in this case, the U.S. election, then the members of Congress need to be aware of it. And ultimately, the country needs to be aware of it. We have to take steps, I think, to deter that, because, of course, we can't count on President Trump, someone who apparently begged the president of China to help his campaign, who invited Russia to do so in 2016, and who will not safeguard our vote. I will say this, though. I think the order of your segments today is exactly the right order. That is, the paramount threat to our elections is from within. It's from a president that's attacking absentee ballots and his party officials who are discrediting millions of votes in advance. But second to that, you have the problem of foreign intervention and foreign amplification of those destructive efforts.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.